Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today I'm taking a look at this, the Spitfire Mk.1 and light utility car from Tamiya in 1/48 scale. So join me as I get stuck into the box of this kit and see what it is like. So on the outside of the box you can see we've got this rather lovely image of the Spitfire and the light utility vehicle sort of alongside each other. At the top here you can see we've got some information about the kit. Faithfully depicted elegant form of the Spitfire Mk.1A, and there's two figures in here. We've got a light utility vehicle, detailed cockpit. You can also see that there's a price. That's the price I paid for it in the shop, but we'll discuss the price a little bit later on. If we flip over to the back, there's nothing to note, so we'll move on to the long edges. So on this edge here, you can see we've got one example of the paint scheme that's included, which is a 19 Squadron Operation Dynamo in 1940 example. And we have an image of a built version displaying some of the lovely details which will be inside the kit. There is a copyright date here of 2023, but copyright dates aren't always tooling dates. The other long edge features a different paint scheme which is included in the kit, and this is a 1939 example. We do have information here that there is some photo etch included, which will be very interesting to see. And there are also apparently some moulding stickers to depict canopy, knockout panel and fuselage side panels. Interesting. On the thin edge is just the same information that we have seen previously. However, we do have an item code of 25211. So with that, let's have a look inside the box and I will find the instructions. I think that's the paint ones. Have a look at the paperwork. So we have a Tamiya Tech Tips, a little help sheet on how to assemble your kit and the various tools and tips and techniques you may want to look at doing. So I'll put that to one side. Here is some background information on the Spitfire, which appears to be all in Japanese. There is some English up here. We've got English on this page here, which is it's all the background information about the Spitfire Mk.1, and it does provide information about the different aspects of the aircraft. So knockout panel here, for example, on the canopy. But yeah, lots of good extra research notes. Basically, we have our instructions for the utility car. Oh, there's a bit of paperwork here I haven't looked at. I presume this is a warranty card, but it says for use in Japan only, so it doesn't affect me. But yeah, so we have our utility car, its own instructions here. We have some information about the actual tilly at the top, and then tools. It keeps going down. Whoa, this just keeps going, doesn't it? Just keeps folding out. So on this first page then, we have some marking schemes. The first one is a British Army unit in northwestern Europe in 1944. So you don't have to build the particular version inside of the box. So that's this one here. It has more complicated paint schemes. The paints are annotated. It's all the Tamiya paint colors, but you have to come back up to the top here and figure out which one is. But I presume it's like a blotchy olive drab kind of color. The next one down is another Army example from 1944, which is painted in XF58, which is generally an olive green. And then we have an RAF version, which is probably the version I will end up doing to go alongside of the Spitfire. And it says semi-gloss black. XF18, no, sorry, I've read that wrong. XF18 is a medium blue, just like we saw on the artwork on the box. And then the last one, Scheme D, is another British Army vehicle, but it hasn't got a date there, so it says like it's a basic paint scheme. And then underneath that, we have some more information about different time periods and what the body color would have generally have been, and some information. There's some more like research notes down the bottom regarding the painting. So yeah, they've done a lot there as long as you're prepared to read it. Then we come on to our assembly instructions for the vehicle. It doesn't look to be overly complicated. We've got the bottom of the vehicle. We add different elements of the chassis, then our wheels, then our crew figure, which has got the paint colors mentioned on here. He can be installed as well as the seats. A few more bits and pieces which need to go inside of the vehicle. We've got some clear parts for the glass and also a dashboard with a steering wheel. There are some more seats which look like they go in the back of the vehicle. And we progress on. There's some little details like a shovel on the top, a spare tire, lights, and then the sort of canvas top which goes over the top of the flatbed at the back, and then the tailgate. Yeah, looks pretty good. I can't see a copyright date on here. Doesn't mean there isn't one, it just means I haven't spotted it if there was one. Would have been better had the painting instructions here been printed in color, as shades of grey can lead to confusion, but they have labeled the relevant things as necessary. And I would use the box artwork as well to give me a guide, but that would be a small sort of criticism, would be I'd like to see those in color. This then brings us on to the instructions for the Spitfire. Very similar format. We have dimensions of the aircraft up here, 235mm in wingspan, 191 in fuselage length. And if we open up the page, there's quite a lot going on. There are 3 different schemes. We already saw 2 of them, I think, but there was a third, which looks like it's this one here for 610 Squadron. And so A, B, and C. As you go through, if there's a different option, you need to make sure you pay attention that you're doing it for the correct one. And then we come into our fuselage, and there are indication that there are bits that need to be cut and holes that need to be opened. So they have done their best to label everything. I feel the steps are a little bit busy. It will take a bit of time to sit down and just sort of figure out what's going on. But yeah, we come on through. We've got fuselage, cockpit details to add the internal walls. Everything's been annotated as appropriate. We have other small details which need to be glued in. Quite a lot of details, to be fair. And if we turn the page, there is indication here about how to do elements of the photo etch. I think that's like the gyroscope, perhaps. And moving on, we've got our control panel and rudder pedals that gets assembled. There are seat belts. There's other bits of bulkheads and things. Lots of bits to do. We have a pilot figure which we can include and then fold the seat belts over the top of him. So they've thought a lot about this kit. There's a lot to do. Carry on down. We join our fuselage together. We have engine exhausts which need a little bit of adding extra bits and pieces to. And then the engine nose has an extra component up here. Exhausts get added. Tail surfaces get glued together and then installed, as well as a tail wheel. Carry on down. There are some holes that need opening up, I presume, for pitot tubes and the like. We have instructions on painting the internal landing gear bays, upper wing surfaces, wing tips, and ailerons. I find it interesting that they've done this. They've got separate wingtips. I wonder if this may be used, this tooling may be used as like a variant for like a Mark V later on, because I think the Mark V shares elements with the Mark 1. But that would be something, perhaps another release they've sort of planned in for the future. Carrying on, air intakes and radiators. Looks like there's a little bit of photo etch for that as well. Progressing on down, add our details to the bottom of the aircraft. Landing gear seems to be a pretty sturdy construction. Rather than having separate legs, they're sort of conjoined, and then panels go over the top. Landing gear covers get added in, and the air intake, and then canopy. So masking sticker. I believe there may be a canopy mask included, which will be really good to see. A few tips on that. Install it into the aircraft. There is our reflector gun sight. We have the option of having our canopy open or closed, and obviously the correct components are included for that if you so wish. I didn't notice a raised landing gear option. It seems that they've only included the option to have the landing gear lowered. If you did want to have it raised, I imagine you could probably cut the wheel leg somewhere and then sort of fold it in with a little bit of modification, but it doesn't seem to be designed as part of the kit. We then have our propeller and spinner assembly and a polycap. So I quite like the way Tamiya do this. You have this like flexible rubber bit, you pop it on inside your propeller assembly, you pop it onto the like mounting point here, and then you should be able to freely rotate it, which is quite fun. Different aerial masts depending on which variant we're doing, and molding stickers. Molding stickers can also be attached using craft bond after having removed their adhesive with Tamiya enamel thinner. I will have to investigate how to use these molding stickers, but I presume, do they just stay on the model? Do they just stay there? I'm gonna have to look into that because I've never used a molding sticker before. But anyway, we come down to painting. So there is some text here about what colours things were painted and how fuselage stencils were used. And the stencil diagram is here on this side. It doesn't matter so much that the stencils are in black and white, because all you're doing is identifying where you need to put different stencils on your finished example. So that's quite handy. And then flipping over, we have the stencils for the sides of the fuselage as well. We do have our tips on applying decals here, but that was the instructions. Again, I would have liked elements of colour in here, but for what we've seen, maybe a little cluttered. Maybe there's a lot of information, a lot going on. But I think if I sit down and just take my time to read it, I'll get where I need to go. So that's that. We do have one thing that we've not looked at yet for painting, and it's our painting instructions, which actually are printed in full colour. This is beautiful. Lovely big page here. So this is the first one. I think this was Scheme A, Battle of Britain, 1940, 610 Squadron. This is quite a famous aircraft. I think it was used a lot in like publicity. I know a lot of other companies have also replicated this particular aircraft, but quite typical paint scheme of the time. Lower surfaces in a sky colour, and then the upper surfaces in dark brown and dark green. If we flip over, we have the other two. So these are not taking up as much real estate on the sheet, but we do have this side here. It looks to be the silver underside with the same green and brown on the top, but it has the smaller pre-World War II roundels. I don't know when the Tilly was brought into service, so how accurate time-wise would it have been to have a Tilly? From what I can tell, I think the Tilly sort of entered into various services in the late 1930s, so it is quite possible that they would have been around on the airfield with aircraft of this age. So we had this one, silver underside, and then this one slightly later, Operation Dynamo, so the retreat from Dunkirk, or the evacuation of Dunkirk. This one has the identification wings, so silver underneath, but white on your starboard wing and black on the port wing for identification. But that didn't last too long, and then they switched out to the sky colour that was typical here. I am tempted to do maybe this one because I quite like the idea of the early. They look pretty cool. You know, it doesn't quite look like the Spitfire that we see most often because it's just from before the war. But I guess we'll have to see what I decide when I come to do it. But painting instructions in colour are very good to see. So that's good. Let us move on to the transfers. They come in this little sleeve, which is not stapled, it's glued. Not glued, heat pressed, heat stamped together. Let's get that out. There's lots of stuff in here. Oh yes, they're getting so much value for your money in here, aren't we? Right, let's have a look. So these are the decals for the Tilly. They appear to be Tamiya's own version. They are a little bit thicker than I've seen from other brands, but generally nice enough. Printing is pretty good. Registration looks decent. We've got the RAF ones over here on this side, and RAF here, and whatever the relevant stencil or license number would be for the one that I'm going to do. But yeah, they look pretty good. Then we have our bigger sheet of decals, and these look lovely as well. They are a little thicker than I've seen, but the printing is really quite lovely. We have our stencils on here. They are printed to a nice quality. The text is quite legible. We have like the gun port covers over here. I think those are for the width, for the tips of the propeller. That's interesting. I might just paint mine, but that's interesting they've included it. Then we have our different examples for the different aircraft that are included. What I quite like is that they've gone for you know, like not like common ones, in the sense that each scheme has slightly different roundels and things, so they have a little bit of variety, and I quite like that. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, pretty nice. They look really good, don't they? So we'll put those down. What else did we have in the bag? We had in here, this is our, let's open the bag. You can tell I've not opened this yet. I've not been tempted to have a good rummage. So in there are the, are these like the molding stickers? I think they just stick on. I think you peel them off and stick them on and then you call it a day. But I need to look into that. I need to Google it and find out what I'm supposed to do with them. They're nice. They look all right. And then here we have masking stickers. These are canopy masks. But, oh, I don't think they're pre-cut. They're not pre-cut. That's a shame. I would have liked to have had pre-cut. These are just printed and then you have to cut them yourself. If my knife is sharp enough, I'm sure it won't be too difficult to follow the lines, but I would have preferred them to be pre-cut. But this is better than nothing and having to do it from scratch by myself. So yeah, would have preferred pre-cut, but this is still pretty good. Just have to make sure I've got a new blade in my knife. And then we're met with some photo etch. I'm not going to get these out of the bag. I don't want to tarnish them. But you can see in here we've got some good different bits and pieces. We've got, like, I don't know, is that another bit of the gun sight? We have seat belts. We have bits for our bulkhead, different bits of grills and things. So yeah, this is getting a lot of value for your money, isn't it? So we had we've got two vehicles effectively. We've got crew figures. We've got lovely sets of decals for both. We've got photo etch. We've got whatever these were, molding stickers. We've got canopy masks, which you need to cut yourself, but they're pretty good. Full color painting instructions, and we haven't even got onto the plastic bits yet. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Right. What do we look at first? That's the question. So we look at the Tilly's parts. Let's find all the parts for the Tilly. So they're all come in different bags, don't they? So let's look at the Tilly. So these are the clear parts for the Tilly. They are molded to a really nice quality. The clear parts are crystal clear for the windows, and then the other elements that you can see here are for the canvas tops. So some of these they're not going to be clear at the end of it. I think they probably put them on here just for space and value for money. This is the roof element here. Again, windows on it are very nice. I can't see anything in the way of flash, no bubbles, no deformities that I can see. That looks very nice. So clear parts, good. Then we have our main body in another bag, and this molded in a dark grey plastic, relatively hard. Maybe it just has a slight mold release feel to it, but generally acceptable, not a problem. Level of detail on there is really quite nice, very nice and crisp, and nothing really in the way of flash. There we go. We've got what appears to be a copyright date on the bottom of 2008, which may well be the tooling date for the Tilly. And then as we flip over onto the main sprue, we have, this is the rear side. So ejector pin marks are on this side, and they are on some of the parts, but I think they may be hidden when they come to assemble this. So that may not be too much of a problem. Flipping over, we have the sort of more detailed side. Oh, look at those wheels. Don't those wheels look nice? The nice details in there. We've got like wood paneling here on these components. We've got shovels. We've got our chairs. We've got the underside here with some chassis detail molded in. We've got our figure. He's to a nice quality as well. Slight mold seam down the edge, which will need a bit of a cleanup. No flash though. Absolutely beautiful looking kit. Looking forward to having a go at this when I get the chance. Right, so yeah, Tilly. 2008 tooling by the looks of it, but really nice. Let's now move on to the main event, the Spitfire. So we have one bag with clear parts in it, and then we have 1, 2, 3 bags with grey plastic. So again, we'll look at the clear parts first. Right, clear parts. So on here we have, oh, don't they look lovely? Absolutely crystal clear. We have a windscreen, another windscreen. So I presume this windscreen is for the early version. Then we have our bubble canopy, and open or closed, and then that's the rear bit for the open. We have our bulletproof sort of front for our canopy as well, and then some of the other smaller clear parts there. No flash that I can see. These clear parts are absolutely beautiful. They are crystal clear, and no blemishes or scuffs that I can see. Maybe an ever so slight one on there, but I don't think we're using that one. Yeah, very impressed with those plastic parts. Coming on to the fuselage then, so this is on the first grey plastic sprue. Again, just like the Tilly, same kind of plastic, ever so slightly greasy feel to it, but nothing too worrying. We have, what do we have? What's the level of detail like? Oh, that's nice, isn't it? So on here, I think you can see that we have nice recessed panel lines. We've got larger rivet details and then smaller rivet details as well, all sort of impressed in, as would have been typical of the time. They haven't gone absolutely nuts, but there is a good level of detail on here. Fuselage sides here, no flash, molding is very crisp, and yeah, this looks, oh, it just looks beautiful, doesn't it? On the inside, we've got a little bit more detail down here, and then on the inside of our fuselage components here, landing gear legs, some ejector pin marks, I think, just there and there. May not be noticeable on the finished build, but they are just a little bit present. But most of the time, the ejector pin marks are not on like the visible surfaces. I think there's one here and here, but I don't know how visible that will be in the finished build. So yeah, very nice looking fuselage parts. Let's look at this sprue. Here we are. So this has our tail surfaces, our figure, the cockpit details and other small components. And again, same deal. Look at, doesn't it look lovely? Look at the ribbing detail on the tail surfaces here, and all the little sort of holes that would have been present on the cockpit sort of brace across the fuselage. Very nice, crisp details, a few little rivet details in places as well. Tires for our wheels, they look good. Pilot figure, so there he is. He's nicely crisp and molded. The mold seam down the edge isn't as prevalent as it was on the Tilly, but then this is a more recent tooling. Yes, very impressive looking model. I'm actually really excited to have a go at this. So that's that bit done. We've got some small details over here. Very nice and crisp. And then the last sprue. This contains our wings. Oh, and there's a little bag of polycaps as well. So we only needed one polycap for our propeller, but we've got two just in case we lose one. I'm not going to get them out, but they're just little sort of like rubber sort of discs that help the propeller stay on. So I'll put that in the box so don't lose it. And here we are. We've got our wing surfaces and ailerons. Again, sort of ribbing details on the ailerons. Engine exhausts, slight mold seam down the engine exhaust, but nothing that I don't think could be fixed with a little sanding. Flipping over to the other side, yep, so we've got our control panel there. That's very nice to look at. Our propeller, and then the surface detail on here, again, it's the same as on the fuselage. It's subtly recessed and raised as appropriate. We've got some little rivet details as appropriate as we go through. But yeah, this is looking absolutely lovely. We've got some smaller details here. They're quite crisp as well. Yeah, very impressed. So let's round that up. We had 1, 2, 3 grey plastic sprues for our Spitfire, all molded to an exceptional quality with lovely levels of detail and very crisp parts. We had 1 sprue of clear parts, which are again molded to a really nice quality and look to be absolutely crystal clear. So that was the Spitfire. We had the Tilly, again, clear parts molded to a very nice quality, and the bodywork came as a single piece, but again, very nice. And the single sprue, not quite, I would say, up to the same standard as the Spitfire, but very close. And then to top it all off, we had decals for our Tilly. which I printed to a nice quality. We had a bigger sheet for the Spitfire. We had canopy masks, which need to be cut out ourselves, but are still better than nothing. These, I've forgotten what they're called, molding things. I need to look them up and figure out how to use them. We had a sheet of photo etch, color, painting instructions, our normal instructions. There is a lot inside this kit, isn't there? I just wanted to swing back to the decals for a second. So I am sure that I read somewhere that these are actually cartograph decals. I've been looking on the box and I can't seem to find that information. I also googled it online, so they may not be, but there is. If you look on the back, there's like this little code here which says CD and then a series of numbers. So CD could stand for cartograph decals. They do have the same sort of color backing paper as cartograph, and the printing, looks similar, but I don't know for sure. Someone somewhere did tell me that they were, but without concrete evidence of it listed somewhere. I mean, it doesn't mean that it isn't in here somewhere. It just means that I haven't found it. Otherwise, they are probably Tamiya's own. But yeah, so back to what we were talking about. Everything came contained. Oh, I love the artwork on this. Artwork on that, absolutely fantastic. Very evocative. Makes you want to have a go at building this scene that's here. I probably will do another paint scheme rather than the one replicated on the box though. And yeah, I am very impressed with this model kit. Very detailed, lots of value for money with what you've got inside the box. And you can see at the top here, £42.99 I paid for that. So 40, let's call it 43. I was actually, there's a bit of a story actually. I was up in a model shop in Yorkshire, and the Tamiya rep in that area was actually in the shop, and he said, if you want something that you've never built before from Tamiya, this is the kit to go for. Not only are you getting one of the most recently tooled Spitfires from Tamiya, but you're also getting a vehicle. And he said it was very unlikely that this box set would be seen ever again. Once the stock is gone, the stock is gone. So it's quite good value for money. I have done a bit of Googling online. Perhaps £43 was a little high. It would seem that the majority of retailers are selling it for £40. But, the extra £3, I'm not going to quibble over that because I was supporting an actual business, a bricks and mortar sort of locally owned business. So that's not a problem to me. But yeah, online, it would seem that this particular kind of boxing retails in the UK at the time of making this video for around £40. But even at 43, do you know what? I think I'm getting quite a lot of value for money. Granted, 2 vehicles, excellent level of detail, really crisp molding, a wealth of information. These instructions have just got so much information in them. Granted, I would have preferred a color on this, but we've got color painting on here, we've got decals, we've got photo etch, we've got those molding stickers, we've got canopy masks. Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot, and I'm feeling quite positive about it. So we were discussing the tooling ages. So the Tilly, as far as I'm aware, has its own boxing, which dates from 2008. So 2008 for the Tilly is the original tooling date, but still looks really good for 2008 tooling. But the Spitfire is a little bit younger. The Spitfire was actually brought out in 2018, and since its original release as a single kit without a vehicle, this is, as far as I'm aware, the second release. So if you wanted the Spitfire just on its own, that would be an option as well. I think it may have come with the same paint schemes as shown here. So all actually Tamiya have done is just put that kit and this kit together. I don't think they've created anything new for this boxing. But even then, that being said, this is probably a better value way of getting 2 kits in one rather than buying them separately. And with that, I think it's probably time to leave this one here. Thank you so much for watching this one. Do let me know down in the comments what you thought of my review of this kit and whether my assessment of it was fair. As always, quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. Massive thanks to these guys on screen. If you'd like to join them or support the channel in other ways, full information is underneath the video. The best way to support the channel for free though is by subscribing with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.